what I've been pretty much observing. And actually, if you pay attention to sometimes in this last year or so, me being redundant and getting bored is because I've already told you years ago, to be honest with you. Now, as far as other insights that you might say, some things I have not spoken because many in the dark priesthood are active trying to hurt people. And if you say certain things now, they will attack others. One of the things that I've recognized over the years with the hybrid Europeans, if they find someone who's spiritually strong that they have not been able to hurt, they'll hurt people around it. So some things I don't say deliberately for that purpose. However, so many things are actually ongoing right now to their negative. I'm kind of observing them trying to block and trying to destroy, and actually divine nature turning their own traps on themselves. So I'm doing a lot more observation now and not necessarily trying to project, not that I can't, because I don't want to also distract people from paying attention to what's already going on and taking responsibility. Because one of the things, and if you see a lot of even some things that we discuss with each other now, people, many of the people are still in that psychology of looking for a sacrificial lamb, which that psychology must leave. There's another reason why some things that I see that I don't talk about. Because even with some of the statements that were made earlier, where people try to make, people take this position of savior, etc., and whether they're qualified to save them type thing, and that whole concept is corrupt and wrong. If it's anything, I unconditionally reject that whole concept. But I do promote self-responsibility. And as we talked about, a moon ago, respect the intuitive mind, because much of what you ask is already with you. And particularly now in this placement. In this cycle placement, most of what you ask for, you could answer it yourself. But again, because we know that some people are still groggy and not awakened to a degree that they need be, is why we continue to do what we do.
There is a principle that's not only in the Bible, even though we know that comes from a whole lot of other texts of other literature, but also when they talk about the law of attraction and so forth. And it's simply this: ask and it shall be given. Knock and the door shall be open unto you. So a lot of things we don't have because we don't ask and we don't think that we're gonna get it, and we're always looking, like you said, we have that savior complex. It's always got to be something.
Get rid of.
Absolutely, got to know that it's within you.
The devil's in you and the God is in you. This is why, if a lot of people will study Professor Drew's philosophies, a lot of the keys were already given, and a lot of people will repeat them. But we do recognize that people have not necessarily looked into the simplicity of certain things that were already given to you. Just needs to be applied. And it's interesting how some of your Gnostic philosophies have been given, and the people are asking for them, and they've actually already been given the answers. And this goes back to where we often get into the habit of repeating phrases or philosophies without examining what we are saying. Mm-hmm. Like whosoever will, let them come. Whosoever will, let them hear. Mm-hmm. And the key is will. And this is important for everybody who's listening tonight. The will and the consciousness of humanity is severely being attacked as we speak. And if you will concentrate in those areas to redeem yourselves, much of the greater work for the upliftment will be done, even with people who think they have no power. And this is what we're moving to. This is what we're trying to encourage the people to respect. This is why we did the lecture moon ago or so of respecting the intuitive mind, because we know that much of that connection is there. It actually is. It's not mere philosophy. That's a fact. So they're attacking your DNA. This is why they want to put those metallic nanoparticles in you with the V, because that's actual fact. And so because as we've talked about years to people, letting them know that we are already biological transceivers. You must know about the biological form of humanity. That's number one. Number two, knowing that biologically or scientifically, they've been experimenting with nanoparticles in the V's, and it didn't begin now. They've been doing it for quite some time, in order to control the mind control, etc. Which is why you see them desperately trying to get the people to take this V, because they're actually losing power on multiple fronts. And so these are acts of desperation on the point of the dark priesthood and the P2 Masons, etc., who've been misrepresenting themselves as Egyptian adepts. Keep that in mind. They are not. Yes.
Oops, and then he dropped that. But I'm reading.
Yes.
I'm reading.
Dr. Nail is reading this book. So
I highly recommend it. The Popol Vuh.
This might be helpful to many of you,
especially in terms of what's going on now, because in that text, like it's sort of like the so-called Mayan Bible,
yes,
they talk about when we were tampered with,
yes,
and how those who did the tampering felt that we were too intelligent, and they wanted to dumb us down. And one of the things they did was sprayed stuff on, like, yes. So chemtrails are not new.
They're not new.
It's in this book.
And flight is not new.
Absolutely.
See, so you've been lied on multiple fronts, and the attacks are more serious than most of us think. However, it is not for you to be so intimidated to think that you have no power. The deal of it is keep in mind, respect the intuitive mind, know that will and intent and consciousness are under attack. If you're aware of that and focus in that area, many of the energies and the directions that humanity needs to go in, including the osmosis of knowledge, will actually activate. This is what they don't want you to know about yourselves.
I'm going to put this question up. I think it's very interesting. Boomin Gumbe almost looks like Nigar. I'm from Gumbag Nation in Terra Australis, falsely claimed as Australia. I need some knowledge to raise my people.
Same principles apply all over, because remember the same. Now keep in mind, in that area, which was also actually part of what, contrary to what people think, part of Mu and Pan, and what they call Landis together. There's been heavy focus in that area.
In that area, yeah.
In that area, because of the, what you would say, more purity of Aboriginal blood. And over the years, many of the family in that area or geographical area are more cognizant of what you might call outside or off-world communications. And many of the brothers and sisters in that area, by not being bombarded with radio and TV for over the years, are still more in tune with their intuitive mind. And in fact, if avoiding many of the diversions, will be able to communicate or transfer much information to the rest of the human family, etc., to reconnect with nature. There's another reason why that area is under such heavy attack, and why they've been eating your children, so that many of the women will not bring in champions. Keep in mind, that's a fact.
So I don't know if the information on the flash,
I could go further
USB drive,
I could go further on that, but I won't at this time.
Would any information on the USB drive be helpful over there, or no? Not as much as
the conscious. the USB drive is more or less to bring a state of mind to get people to start rejecting the schism operations of the hybrids who have been pretending to be government. If that is achieved, that is the real missionary work of the flash drive. To be honest with you, to kind of encourage people to get to a point where nature starts taking over. You know how, like you say, if you're kind of pushing a car uphill and you get to the top, and if you get to the top and let it go, that's kind of what we do with the flash drive. Keep that in mind. Because we know that you have opposition, particularly among our own. Keep in mind, a lot of the schism and a lot of the counter moves against the development or the uplifting of fallen humanity have been people who are compromised on our side, who have been pretending to be victims, but whose real mission is to cause disruption, because they've been part of the corruption. So don't think that everybody that comes in this skin, etc., has best intentions for your people, because many of them are demons. That's a fact. They fool some, they don't fool people who see.
I'm gonna put this answer be question up here because I think it's been up here like I've seen it so many times. How can I, as a 25-year-old Moor, set up a source for Moors that easily provides them conveyances that are made of and fueled by nature? What laws and treaties can I utilize for this?
You're on the path already. Go to Intuit Mind. Because remember, you will ask the God within. And again, what happens is that you start associating with people, or people will be brought into your presence who are in that state of ascension, and the keys are there, because even that intent is also projection, and that meditation is also projection or invocation. It actually is, and it'll be drawn to you. Particularly now, as the three-dimensional constructs are falling apart, which we've been telling you in the last couple of years. Almost everything in the institutions that were constructed in the third-dimensional energy are collapsing. And so by default, humanity will be pushed ahead anyway. That's why for people who are less studied, I just say start looking at the energies of Uranus, and it'll tell you a lot, even if you're not what you call astrologically astute. And again, a lot of what people are asking for is actually taking place while we're asking. You know, like, and the other deal of it is too, Dr. Naila, a lot of the ascension changes that people are asking for, the distractions are put out there to kind of distract some people from recognizing that a lot is already taking place, even while we speak.
I don't know if you're...
And you'll get to a point where it's sort of like the energy or state of mind of the people when it reaches a certain point, it will be like they call 100th monkey type thing. Because really, that's where we're moving in that direction already. This is again why you see the multiple strong attacks being made on humanity, which includes, but not limited to, the intrusion upon the crystal stream known as the V.
Well, here is a question. Please ask Taj, I don't know if you are familiar with this movie, to decipher the de facto government, shadow government, or well, I guess what the de facto shadow government is saying in the movie Space Jam Legacy. Thank you in advance.
I didn't see that movie.
Okay.
But I would tell you in general, without seeing the movie, that they're exposing to you a lot of pre-existing ancient technology presented as something new or introduced when actually it's old. And I'll say that without even seeing the movie.
Okay, let me see if there are any more questions. Okay. All right, y'all. Respect each other. Let me see.
And again, I want to remind those of you who are sharing with us tonight to start looking at many of the people who have been making negative statements about the rise of the Moors or attacking them, to start looking at those people who are making the attacks and see what their motives are. And see if any one of them have identified, in fact, a treaty or constitutional law that them brothers and sisters violated. And identify any already established statement presented by any one of those complainants who presented information to show that they violated any laws. And I suggest that you've seen complaints, but you have not seen them show any law that they violated. On top of the fact that I'll show you something that they violated the law, they have accepted the strangers before their own blood. That's the violation that I've been looking at.
This is not a question, this is a comment, but I think it's 3 bases. Control your thoughts. Only allow positive images into the mind. Manifest your destiny. You are the light. Always seek that of the light. You can heal yourself and your circumstances with thought alone. So true.
Exactly. Man is mine.
Ashe.
Man is mine. And this is another reason why the dark priesthood promotes confusion, schism, and fear, to keep you destabilized and to divert your consciousness, because your consciousness is being attacked and your will is being attacked. So identifying those 2 avenues of social chess should help a lot of people.
Where do we go to request the flash drive? I've been scrolling it across the bottom. The USB drive is the flash drive. If you just text to this number, you will get the link. We have a brand new link. Real easy. Just text USB to that number that you see going across the screen right now, and you will get a link after the show, and you can order. It'll take you directly to the order page. Let's see if there are any more questions. Thank you. I don't know, very chic. Agents in this chat, probably. I'm American. Question. All right, here's one. Okay, Brother Taj, what is minimum contact concerning challenging jurisdiction of the court?
See, this is the deal. Recognize that there are no lawful courts operating on the land. That's the first thing you must remember. There are no logically, there are no constitutional courts nor constitutional officers operating on the land. Although you may see Mr. T and some other people behind him militarily that are presenting a position of republic or restoration. However, they were not assigned by us or the people. Therefore, even they are, in fact, de facto. However, due to the fact that they are standing up for those principles, is certainly supported and lauded. However, what you have is military operations, in fact, and you have no operative, legitimate constitutional government operating at North America, nor the courts. And again, this is why for the last 25, 30 years, when we started doing jurisdictional agreement of jurisdiction challenges and pro wanto exercises, i.e. mock court, etc., we've been promoting the the restoration of the consular venue, diversity of nationality, in relationship to treaties and constitutions, etc., in order to hold these people who are pretending to be government to the obligations of the positions that they're claiming, etc. And in the process, it exposes the whole paradigm. And in the process, it makes people actually more conscious, and at the same time gives people exercises needed to start being jurisconsults, etc., which is a state of mind politically that we need to be in that state of mind operatively anyway.
Okay.
And this is also why people who have been less than honorable among our own and others have been staunch criticizers of the restoration of constitutional principles, i.e., diversity of nationality comes to the court. And even some of them saying it never existed, which they are lying. And I suggest many of you read Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution for the United States, coming from Muslim law, as Obama talked about, and the enforcement of treaty law. Because that is the venue that has been neglected when you're talking about legitimate courts. So the only ones who are legitimately operating are people who are exercising or entertaining treaty and constitution enforcement. So Noble Ali said to the Moors when he established the old Canaanite temple in 1913, he says, "Help me in my great missionary work to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of government, enforcing our Constitution for the United States of America." And what he know, as soon as you did some research, you would see that they had modified and altered it and have a private operation, or what they call a second Constitution of the United States, which is the fraud and the de facto. But he said to you also that the half has not been told. If I told you everything, you go back to sleep. But once you find out the fraud, those who are sincere would be honorable enough to restore and activate the existing legitimate courts, and logically that would be the jurisdiction of the Moorish nation, etc. And he says, where is the Moorish Empire? Northwest of Mexico. There you go in your question.
If you all are having problem with the link as I put it up, I just put it up, just text 827 to 302-345-0500, and I'll send you the link if you want to get a ticket for our close and personal. We have about 40 some tickets remaining, so you want to do that sooner than later. Let me see.
And keep in mind, remember we talked to Dr. Naila, and we talked actually, in the area of 7 years back on up, when we was mentioning it every once in a while, when the people start doing trusts, etc., or even going in that direction, it would kill the bonds, it would kill the straw man that everybody keeps trying to capture, which they will never allow you to do. But what it does, it kills the bond system. And so it doesn't matter how many straw instruments they start creating, they can't sell them because nations are not buying them. That's how you capture the straw man, you choke it.
And all you have to do is go into these stores, and these especially even these big box stores and so forth, and see how they are tied to this overarching corporation, because everybody is moving stuff around to make it look like they still have stock and so forth, when everything is being depleted and not restocked because they can't get it.
As an example, we had a conversation a week or so ago or more, and with problems that we had with finance that you put out in lot. And what did I say to you? I said they're not going to tell you, but they have a supply issue. What did they tell you when you went there?
They're having an issue with supply.
Because I already knew what was happening. And I've been telling people for the last few years that they're going to stop buying U.S. Treasury bonds and stop accepting the private commercial paper of the Jesuit order, which you've been calling the Federal Reserve note, which is not money. Therefore, they're going to have supply issues all around the planet. What's going on right now is Mr. T is negotiating, because remember, they're defunct. They have defaulted on all of those bonds that we've been telling you for the last 7 years was going to happen. And so all of them are going to have supply issues. And so again, this goes again why they want to do the V thing, to put the people to sleep and control their minds and then kill off some of these people. Because they already know that they've been putting people who have what you call Social Security age and people, and I've been telling you all for 15 years, 401ks are going to be 409ks. I've been telling you for years. Well, guess what? There are 409ks in all of the orders. That's the fact. The deal of it is, a lot of the stuff that they're doing now is to cover up the fact that all of the institutions have failed. They have collapsed. And so they're keeping the people preoccupied with fear and one V after another V, or another V after another V, and another version of the V after the other V, to cover up the fact so that you don't go to these people that you've been calling your priests and your politicians and physically choke them for what they have actually done. They're diverting your attention off of themselves. That's the real truth. And they were putting people in nursing homes to kill them off so that they would not have to meet the obligations of their both pensions and retirements, which they're obligated to because they've stolen it all already. And guess what? The Greys didn't do that. These people that you've been calling congressmen and congresswomen have done this to you. And they're not your congressmen and they're not your congresswomen. They are private board of director operatives for the Jesuit order and members of the Roman Curia and members of the Circle Church and Chancery, which we've been telling you for years. And all of these attacks are diversions so that you don't look at who the real problem has been and is and are. And backed up by people you've been calling preachers and pastors. And all of them been doing human trafficking. Don't you ever think it hasn't been that. And when you find out some more stuff, you're going to find out shortly, most of them people are going to go in hiding. Even some of the ones that you trusted.
Here's a question from Turtle Hustle. There has been several spiritual masters from the East who have been coming to America since the late 1800s, but they teach more hybrid Europeans than Moors in America. Why is that?
Keep in mind, the Moors in America have been the farthest away from their law and culture. And we have, not that they haven't come to us, but we have been rejecting it, following after idol gods of Rome that we knew nothing of. It's not that they haven't come to you, you haven't listened.
Okay, let me see.
In other words, you've been hard-hearted and rebellious, and you are the direct heirs. And you've been claiming names and principles that delude to forced servitude and connotative slavery, and then wanting to charge the world with it. Well, guess what? When you dishonor your mothers and your fathers, in law, all over the planet, you have no right of inheritance. That's a choice. And you can't say that men didn't come here and tell these people that they're not Negro, Black, or colored, because that is the fact of the case. As a matter of fact, the only organization that was set up actually in contemporary times to address that absolutely directly is the Moorish Divine and National Movement. And look how much negative misrepresentation has been hoisted upon Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, which was put in place to actually directly address that issue. So it's not that they haven't come, many have not listened. So by your free will, you get what you reap. You're reaping what you've been sowing. So don't feel sorry for it. That's why over the years, Dr. Nayola, you hear me always say, when people come to this information, don't start playing victim and don't start feeling sorry for yourselves, because we're not innocent in this.
That's true. I was trying to find this question to put it up. I know it was Jasmine Miller. I saw it. But the question was whether or not, because she's in the UK, whether or not they can buy a ticket for the 27th and log in. Unfortunately, like the revolution, this is not going to be televised. We call this up close and personal because we feel that this is an opportunity for us to be completely open and honest and in an environment
without interference,
or because we know when we're on this kind of a platform, we're speaking to everybody and anybody. And you can put any picture up that looks like you're a Moor. So this is actually not going to be televised, although it will be recorded. We will determine how we want to make and if we're going to make it available to those who were not able to come in person, but it will not be live streamed, unfortunately. So just to answer anyone else's question besides Jasmine's. Let me see. Any more questions? Questions. There was a question about you addressing the door to. I think you did mention it. The door-to-door V campaign. You have kind of mentioned it.
Those are members of the Roman Curia, some of which are not necessarily just on that side of Curia operations. Some of them were actually replaced there to actually as what you call double agents to actually undermine the operations of the dark priesthood and the synagogue of Satan, which is absolutely entrenched in what is known as the Democratic Party, also in the fake Republican Party known as Rhinos. So keep in mind, you actually observe, because you have many of them who are sleepers are actually on both sides. So this again why you have to be spiritually astute and pay attention and don't necessarily take sides, but observe, because this all this much of what's going on now is for your observation. It's for heavy learning because, as we said a couple of years ago, things are going to be accelerating so fast that most of the people, when they start recognizing what's really been going on, if they don't have a strong constitution, they will actually crack up. And that's not an understatement. And that's true. Things will be exposed to you that are very so traumatic and so ugly that one of the things that many of us have to do is learn to succor each other or to help each other to handle what's coming forth. So it's not just the surface politics as you see it. Keep in mind there's uglier, larger, what you might call clock of destiny going on by measurements, cycle measurement that most of us aren't used to dealing with. Some people who are adeptus at this know that placement, cycle placement, are looking at from another dimensional perspective, that until people get to a certain level of comprehension, that it would almost be not a waste of time to tell them, but actually it would be a distraction. So what we try to do is get people to start respecting their intuitive mind so that some more things can be said. However, we're already not coming to, but we're already at a point of exposure that a lot of people will not be able to handle the information that you're going to be smashed with. And I say that just like that, smashed with.
Yeah, it's ugly. A lot of it's ugly.
Not, you know, when I wrote that poem in Moors Defined, lesson book number 1, and I talk about the God sellers. The God sellers are going to be in trouble. Because you're going to find a lot of people that have been running around talking about gods are actually the absolute opposite. And so when you're talking about the board of directors, and this is fact that people need to know, that from a specific and documented position, the persons who you're calling the Congress and the Senate for the United States are all, bar none, members of the Roman Curia and are on the board of directors for the Rothschild, which means red shield, and that's just the front, because that even not even who it is. And the operations for the synagogue of Satan, who have been ruling Midgard for quite some this last millennia. Let's put it that way. And the anthropomorphic perception that you know as Jesus, look at it anthropomorphically, has already been on the path of restoration of that which is correct and right. Whether you use the name Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius, etc., you're really talking about an energy spirit that is really the same. That energy has already been here and is already operating now on another level, dimensional level, to defeat the dark priesthood. And so your politics is a lower level reflection of that. Know that that is the truth.
I'm gonna we're almost some of the things that some people are interested in are things that are going to be addressed over on my new channel, because everybody doesn't want to hear about the metaphysical or the galactic and all that, even though we all need to know, because it's going to be more and more apparent as time goes by in the very, very near future.
You're not even going to.
They're going to need to know.
You're not even going
to be on you.
Put it this way: you're not even going to be going into maybe what you might call another. You know, like people looking at 222, 223. You won't get past that before much of what we've been telling you for years will be smashing you in your face.
Well,
so it's sort of like this. Things will be accelerating and happening and taking place so fast. Some things have been slowed down only in the nature of having compassion for humanity, not necessarily to hide things from you, but actually to protect your mental. Because one of the things that some who are trying to do good are trying to protect your consciousness, which is under attack. Because your consciousness, if it goes negative, you'll start manifesting for the dark priesthood, which we've been doing with our adopted belief systems, thinking that we were helping that which is divine, which has much to do with the condition that exists here at Midgard, which we're trying to help reverse.
So I want you to subscribe, go to YouTube and put in a search, Dr. G is official. Now it's going to pop up, Darius is official. No, you want Dr. G is official. I only need, there's like over 1,000 of you on here right now. I only need 140 more subscribers to get to 1,000. And I appreciate that, because I haven't even put any live content on there. So 800 and whatever, 60 of you have already subscribed. 140 of you, 1,083 that I see right now, can go over to YouTube, to Dr. G is official, and subscribe, so that those of you who want the esoteric information will be able to get that, apart from this channel, which is more concerned with more science and so forth. But direct civics, but metaphysics, the esoteric is more science. You need to know that.
It is.
It's very important that you know that. It's very important that you get back to your divine self, your divine mind, your divine abilities, because a lot of the things that you are bellyaching about and wanting somebody else to do, you wouldn't have to have that type of experience, because you'd be able to manifest the outcomes yourself.
Physician, heal thyself.
So go over there, 140 of you.
Remember, we're promoting responsibility.
So,
we're not promoting followership. We're promoting self-responsibility.
Here's a question here, and I thought this was, where did it go? Somebody asked if, and forgive me if I didn't actually pull up your question, but I remember what it was. They asked if the here it is. DJ, come to pull it up. Is the IRS still operating? I still haven't gotten my refund, and I filed it on March 15th. That is ridiculous. Somebody else told me the same thing today.
The IRS is being dismantled, and by technical legal process is non-operative. However, some of the paid agents within that program operations of the Roman Curia have been moved to the Treasury Department for the United States, and this is to repurpose some of their activities, and some of them are being removed altogether on multiple levels. And the real deal of it is some of the fines in violation that have taken place apply to those who, and many who have been violating human rights and international law. Their resources are being confiscated to refund operations of a appearance of legitimate government operating under constitutional principles, i.e., and that platform is what Mr. T represents. Whether or not those manifests will come to be is for you to see. However, that is part of the battle that's going on in the background. So to put it in just straightforward to you, the IRS is being dissolved.
Hi. Yeah, yeah, good.
And if some of you will notice that many of you have probably been notified that your credit cards aren't working, which I told you 7 or 8 years ago would start happening.
Yeah, they're shutting down a lot.
Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet. They've been trying to hide it, but it's like everything is breaking. Every institutional platform is breaking. And this is again why they've been so hostile to anyone who exposes truth, because the deal of it is they don't want you to look at them, because a lot of the people you've been calling government is really your demons. And they ain't gray either.
And if you think that person, that Mr. B, is the same Mr. B that was at my graduation 40-some years ago, that's not him. Trust and believe.
You know, without going into it really deep, you got projections, you got clones, you got CGI, etc.
We watched today some news on YouTube, and the people, I guess it was from a few days ago, but the correspondent said over to these two individuals who were in Washington, supposedly in DC, in the DC area, for I think there was the lawyer that was being arraigned or something. You remember that? Mm-hmm. And it was obvious. They had a video playing in the background, and they were green screen. I mean, everything that we see
CGI
is like a big psyop movie that's being projected in front of us as real. And I don't know how many people are falling for this stuff now. I mean, you could just tell now things that we took for granted were real in the past. Now it's like the eyes of our understanding being enlightened.
If you notice that that all around the world in different nation, state territories, you're having massive flooding and storms that are not harmonic with the seasons. Those are diversions too.
Yeah, so much.
But again, remember we told you years ago, we said, time's going to come, you're going to be putting those credit cards in the machines, and the machine going to go burp. Well, it's happening already, and you will see it accelerating. For those of you who doubt what I say, start doing some research on Wells Fargo and that other HBC game, and you're going to start happening at Chase, and then it's going to start accelerating. So we told you years ago to take your fiat out of them banks.
Get you some
Don't keep
silver.
any more in there than you need to keep those accounts operating while transition is being made. Because what they're going to do, they're going to bail in to save themselves, and they will sacrifice you to do so. This is again why we've been telling you for years to start getting silver. Now, not that, because that's the money. Not that you wouldn't get gold. It's just that when you get gold, you're not going to be transferring your everyday affairs in gold. That would be your backup. Not only that, the silver is going to jump far higher than you could ever imagine.
And you're going to be able to get some gold with a few pieces of silver.
Yeah. Keep in mind, Silver has more industrial uses and also medical uses than gold does.
Absolutely.
But keep in mind what we've been telling you for years, cosmologically, gold is the alchemical metal for the sun. Copper is the alchemical metal for Venus. Silver is the alchemical metal for the moon. And so the moon economy on the earth controlling the blood flow and the movement of the waters is where you get moon or eco in agriculture from in its dynamics. And so that is the money. And therefore, in the constitution of the principles of the Asiatic nation, gold and silver coin is the only thing that's used universally as a general rule in contractual agreement for the satisfying of debts. So it cannot be paid without gold or silver coin until such time, and this is after thousands and thousands and thousands of years that we have changed that process, and we have not changed that constitution of operations on Midgard. And therefore, they give you something else and tell you it's money. They're lying to you. Therefore, credit is not money. Federal Reserve notes are not money. And you've not been allowed to handle money for years. Keep that in mind, not to divert you from the subject matters that we're talking about at the moment.
Mercy and Freeman, your question about what's meant by a gray, I think somebody else responded, but yes, grays are ETs or alien beings.
Not new.
Nope, been around. Some say that they're not even biological.
That's a loose name. You got that right. Some of them, yes, a few of them are.
Some are
are actually biological robots.
Right. That's what I mean.
You got that right. Many of them are simply, they don't have what the soul that you talk about. They take orders. You might call it biological AI with some of them. But again, like I said before, I don't divert people to that because many people aren't what you would call in the frame of mind to handle that. And we have a tendency to keep getting diverted from things that you need to address in front of you. You know, it's sort of like you've heard me always say, why have a discussion with people what's on the dark side of the moon when they can't get across town without getting profiled? So I more or less try to deal with mundane things, down to earth things that help people take responsibility to solve a lot of our problems here in Midgard, so you can prepare for other things. It's sort of like the principle of how dare you claim the love of God you do not see, and love not your brothers and sisters whom you see by the day. Again, my position has always been, why discuss the dark side of the moon when we don't even know the principles of this firmament that we know as Midgard or Earth, when most people don't even know that this particular Earth is Midgard. So why are we going to discuss things that are beyond us? My issue is, let's start solving some of the problems before us, meaning that let's start eating the plate of dinner that's before us before we start arguing about dessert. Not that dessert is not relevant.
I see a couple of, as we get ready to, I'm not going to miss this opportunity to, particularly since I know this is real. There's several questions, or a couple of questions, not several. Turtle Hustle says, how does stacking gold and silver protect us during this economic meltdown?
It doesn't.
That
concept is also misrepresented too.
Right. And somebody else said it was hard to get silver here. I don't know where here is.
Of course it is.
I'm running at the bottom of the page. If you are in the U.S., if you're in the U.K. jurisdiction, some of these, you can get the silver for as little as 35 notes an ounce, a coin per coin.
And remember, a few months ago it was what, 23?
23. I was so glad that I got 100 plus 200 ounces at 23. That went up $11 an ounce. So if you see that, www.getpaidmore.com. Go visit that site. You can get silver as a preferred customer, or you can get silver as a wealth ambassador and